The dark truth found in the basement of the Millionaire twin sisters' mansion. 2 twin sisters. An incalculable fortune. And a secret buried beneath the marble floor that no one should have discovered. What the police found in the basement of this mansion forever changed the story of the city's richest women. It was a winter night when the alarm went off for the 3rd time that week. The Castellano twins' mansion, built on 5,000 square meters in the capital's most upscale neighborhood, had always been shrouded in mystery. 15-foot walls. Cameras on every corner. Wrought iron gates that seemed to protect more than just property. Sisters Helena and Isabella Castellano inherited everything at 23, when their parents died in a helicopter crash over the ocean. No one ever found the bodies. And no one ever asked questions. For 15 years, the twins lived isolated in that colossal property. They appeared only at charity events, always dressed in black, always with calculated smiles that never reached their eyes. Employees lasted 6 months at most. They all left without explanation. Some disappeared without even collecting their final paycheck. The entire city speculated, but no one had the courage to investigate. Money buys silence. And the Castellanos had enough money to buy an entire city. But that December night, something different happened. The alarm wouldn't stop. And when police finally invaded the property after 17 unanswered calls, they found the front door wide open. Cold wind entered through the corridors. Lights flickered in an irregular rhythm, as if the house itself were breathing. There was no sign of the twins. Just a trail of blood descending the main staircase and disappearing toward the back of the house. The officers followed the trail. They crossed halls decorated with European master paintings. Passed through a library with more than 10,000 leather-bound volumes. Walked through a music room where a grand piano remained open, with sheet music scattered across the floor. And then they reached the kitchen. Immense. Covered in white tiles that reflected the fluorescent light almost painfully. It was there, behind a refrigerated pantry the size of a bedroom, that they found the door. A steel door. Locked from the outside. With a digital lock system that no one recognized. It took 4 hours to break through. And when they finally managed to open it, what they saw made them recoil. A concrete staircase descended at least 50 feet. The walls were lined with industrial acoustic insulation. The kind used in recording studios. Or in places where no one can hear what happens inside. At the bottom of that staircase was a corridor. Long illuminated by cold lamps that hummed softly. On each side, numbered doors. 7 in total. The first was ajar. Inside, a room lined with mirrors. Floor to ceiling. Mirrors on every wall. And in the center, a modified dentist's chair, with leather straps on the sides. Dark stains on the white upholstery. Stains no one wanted to identify. The second room held files. Thousands of folders organized by year, month and day. Each contained photographs. Documents. Medical records. Names of people who had disappeared over the last 15 years. People without family. Without fixed addresses. People no one would look for. The third room was a laboratory. Stainless steel counters. State-of-the-art medical equipment. Flasks with liquids in colors that don't exist in nature. And shelves full of labeled jars with scientific names the officers couldn't pronounce. It was in the fourth room that they found the twins. Helena and Isabella were sitting side by side in identical chairs, facing a wall covered with monitors. Dozens of screens showed images from cameras scattered not just throughout the mansion, but across the entire city. Parks. Hospitals. Shelters. Subway stations. They watched. They chose. They planned. When the officers entered, the two turned their faces at the same time, with the same empty expression, like marionettes controlled by the same invisible string. They offered no resistance. They said not a word. They simply stood up and extended their wrists for the handcuffs. But it was the look that the officers would never forget. That look that showed no fear or guilt. Just a profound emptiness. As if there was nothing human left behind those identical eyes. The investigation revealed a truth no one was prepared to accept. The Castellano twins were not ordinary killers. They were researchers. Scientists obsessed with a theory they inherited from their own parents. The idea that extreme pain could unlock hidden capacities of the human brain. That suffering, when applied in a controlled and scientific way, could transform an ordinary person into something superior. Something evolved. The folders contained 15 years of experiments. 15 years of attempts. 15 years of failures. But it wasn't just the experiments that shocked the country. It was the discovery that Helena and Isabella were also victims. Their parents had begun testing on them when they were children. At 5 years old, they already spent hours isolated in the basement. At 10, they already knew all the techniques of neurological manipulation. At 15, when their parents died, they could no longer see the difference between right and wrong. They had been programmed. Molded. Transformed into continuators of a monstrous legacy. The trial lasted 8 months. Forensic psychiatrists debated whether the twins were criminals or just products of abuse that began before they even learned to speak. Lawyers argued they never had a choice. Prosecutors demanded life imprisonment. The jury was divided. In the end, they were sentenced to psychiatric treatment in a maximum security institution. They would never be seen in public again. They would never have contact with the outside world again. The mansion was demolished 6 months later. Every stone. Every brick. Every piece of Italian marble was crushed and discarded as hazardous waste. The land was purchased by the government and transformed into a public park. Today, children run on the grass where once there was a basement of horrors. Families have picnics where once there were torture rooms. No one talks about what existed there. It's as if the entire city made a silent pact to forget. But some cannot forget. The officers who descended that staircase carry nightmares that wake them screaming. The neighbors who lived next door for 15 years wonder how they didn't notice. And the victims' families, those few who managed to identify a name in the folders, live with the guilt of not having searched before. Of not having insisted. Of having accepted that some people simply disappear. The story of the Castellano twins teaches us something disturbing about human nature. It shows that monsters aren't born suddenly. They are cultivated. Federal molded by circumstances that begin long before any crime is committed. It reveals that the greatest atrocities often happen hidden behind respectable facades. Behind immense fortunes. Behind polite smiles at charity events. And it forces us to question how many other stories like this exist at this very moment, hidden beneath the floors of houses that seem too perfect to be true. Think about that the next time you pass an isolated mansion. When you notice walls that are too high. Gates always closed. Windows with curtains that never open. Ask yourself what might be happening on the other side. And remember that the most dangerous evil isn't the one that announces itself. It's the one that disguises itself. That buys silence. That builds impeccable facades while, in the basement, it feeds secrets that should remain buried forever. But some secrets are too big to stay hidden. And when they finally come to light, they change everything we thought we knew about the people living among us.